everyone. My name is Melina, and this is
Jordan.
And we've got a guest today. Thank you for coming to the
Absolutely.
podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So excited to have you here.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Jordan, you have a little bit more like a relationship, obviously, with him.
Yeah.
So maybe you can kind of fill us in on how you guys met, and
Yeah, it all started. So we've been able to touch base and talk through BMBA, and Vargas is one of the mentors there, and providing guidance and mentorship to a lot of the brothers that are on there, and that's how we met. And we've talked several times. It's great because he keeps up with all the things that I'm doing, and I keep checking in, seeing how he's doing with, opening new places, which is what we'll get into as well.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's pretty much how it's happened.
Sweet. And then if you can just kind of give us a little blip about the things that you do and and how you got involved in it all.
Yeah. So, pulling off of Jordan, how it started. No. The thing is, so I'm originally from Mississippi. And so Mississippi has there's a lack of resources, right? And so I did an internship, loved what I was doing, but the services that we provided were not in Mississippi, right? It was just not there. And so what do? You create it, right? And so we created an agency. We started in a small school, small church, actually, one room. And so the services just continue to expand from there, right? So it started out as early intervention, and then it moved to school age, and then it moved to adults within the community. So we provide services from birth to geriatrics, right? And so not just autism, but also individuals that's been diagnosed with intellectual disabilities. And so, that's where it started, and that's where we are. And so that's where we continue to go. Yeah.
It is. It's such a starting young, going like older. We talked about this before too, like starting young, going all the way through. Absolutely. Like there's different perspectives that you get that you can take back to the next generation that you get, the next wave of kids coming through, because you get to see that.
It. And not just from your clinical skills, but also the political environment, right? And so it went from various words that we did not call individuals, right? And so now you're changing your vocabulary into how you're speaking about individuals. And so that's training parents, training other professionals around you as well. So I've been in it for a while, and I've seen things change throughout the landscape. But just like you said as well, talking about services from early intervention to adolescents to older kids, and then going back, learning from those mistakes, right? And then, now we're going to do it this way this time. So it's all just one big circle. It just continues to flow that way.
Amazing. I also think too, like this is one thing that I appreciate about Jordan. I feel like it's so helpful to know adults as well.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like when you're working with the children, it's like, okay, I can kind of get a glimpse of what, like, if we don't work on X, Y, and Z in 10, 15, 20 years, this is going to be a big hindrance on their life. So I think that's a great perspective to have too, that, not everyone in the field has.
Yeah. And even taking that aspect to parents though, right? And so not saying that, research says if you don't do this, but being able to actually see it firsthand, right? So Mom, I'm working with an adult that's 43 years old that did not have early intervention services, right? That did not receive these services in the IEP and things of that nature. This is what happens. And so being able to say, I see this, now allow us to do these things, right? And the entire package, if you will, it's being alongside of the parents. So many times as professionals, we want to dictate what a person should or should not do, but we have to take into consideration where they are, and we have to take into consideration so many other things, but it's a walk alongside the individuals. And I think that when we lose that as professionals, you lose that critical piece of what it is that you need to do for a person.
Yeah, and you hit it so perfectly, I think. Like it is such a big deal. You go through school, you read the textbooks, you do this is what we got to do, right? And then when somebody just gets their BCBA, they're like, I want to do everything. It's just like bang, like I'm just gonna do this, and they forget that we're dealing with people.
Absolutely.
Different walks of life, different cultures, different environments that shape culture, just different households, like rules and things like that. And so finding a way to meet them where they are, to bring them to where, they need to be, and just to see things from a different perspective is huge. And like you were saying, just, helping them, like, I'm working with a 43-year-old, like, this is what it could look like. It's like, things like they're 3, like, this is so cute. Okay. It is.
Right.
But
absolutely,
these rigidities that are also in play here might have it linger a little bit longer. So I'm not saying we should change it.
Right.
But what we could do is look at other varieties of things we can incorporate.
That's it.
It's not, I don't want to change your child. I just want to show you that this also could go horribly wrong in a few years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's not the approach people take. It's almost like, no, you got to stop right now.
Exactly. And it's just so closed mind, right? And so one aspect that I do when I'm speaking to families is I have this caveat. I am not here to change family dynamics. That is not my role, right? You tell me what it is that you want to work on, right? And let's see, based upon, empirical evidence, what we should be doing from that aspect, right? So again, walking alongside. I am not the know-all, be-all, and I don't portray to be that when I'm talking to parents either. So
I wanted to say too, just because you brought up the cultural piece, I'd be so curious, and we don't have to talk about this today, but I'd be so curious, even like the cultural differences of your Mississippi office versus your Arizona office.
Let's talk about it.
I don't know, we got no time for that.
Right. No, so it's interesting. Years back, there was a colleague of mine. We went to a particular city in Mississippi, very rural area. And we knocked on the door, and a older white woman answered. She allowed us to come in. And the first thing she said when we sat down is, now, what is it that you all like to be called?
Wait, okay, so hold on. We might have to switch up the order of our questions. I'll ask after, but
it was humans, maybe. But that's more common than it is uncommon in Mississippi, right? So those are the things that we don't necessarily hear about, especially when the population of behavior analysts, Black behavior analysts within the state is already extremely low, right? But these are the professionals that's going into the homes, into the different schools and areas and things of that nature. But that's what we see quite often. And so it's not that we have to, it's not the fact that we don't know what we're doing. We have to prove ourselves over and over again, and not by your academic prowess, right? Yeah. It's just the fact that I'm Black, I have this education, allow me to do these things. And so that's the first barrier before I even speak, before I even say anything. I show up as who I am, right? Yeah. And it's up to that parent to choose to accept me or not. But that's more common in Mississippi than anything else. Arizona, for me, and again, I'm mainly from the South, it is truly a cultural mecca. There is so many different cultures, diversity. And so for me, I haven't seen where I was not able to provide services based upon what I look like. It's been, can you help my child? Right? And so it's been so much more welcoming. It's reinforcing within itself.
I bet.
And so it makes you want to work even harder and provide, even better services, because you have this intrinsic motivation. You have this intrinsic reinforcement because of that.
That's amazing. I might just ask this
Go ahead.
now then. Okay. So as the first Black-owned ABA agency in Mississippi, do you feel your experience starting a business was different from others who are not people of color? And were there particular challenges, biases, or hurdles that you had to navigate?
So it's multifaceted, to be honest with you. I think that with me, I was the first entrepreneur within my family, right? So even taken out of the context, being in Mississippi, being Black, I was the first entrepreneur. And so with that, there was a set of issues, hurdles, roadblocks that I had to face alone, that I didn't have anyone that I could speak to about what do I do in this situation. And then secondly, being the first entrepreneur, now I'm in Mississippi and I'm Black, right? So it carried a whole other nuances of issues that I had to face. So yes, I think it was very difficult. I've received even letters from other clinical psychologists in the area stating that what I was doing did not fall under various licenses or certifications and things of that nature, even though I held the proper credentials, right? So it was okay as long as we were this small group within this church. But when we started to obtain contracts with school districts, right? When we started to obtain a contract for the state working with adults, now things are starting to be questioned. Now there's more scrutiny, right? So absolutely, it wasn't a in your face type thing. It was more, I'm going to attack your credentials. I'm going to attack the quality of your work, right? And so I'm going to scrutinize all of those things. So that's not just starting the business, that's ongoing.
Yeah.
No, that's something
the
that
professional piece.
Absolutely.
Is
It's just part of
under
it.
a microscope the whole time.
Absolutely. And so you hear the statement that you have to be 10 times better than your counterparts. It's true, right? And I don't know if it's 10 times better, but I have to work 10 times harder to even expect the same thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like in that there's already so many hurdles that you said. Being Black, being the first entrepreneur in your family, that also comes with family pressure, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, are you going to be able to provide? Are you going to be able to provide for your family?
Yeah.
You can't come back to us. Like,
right. That part.
Yeah. Like, there's already those dynamics of like, as you're even contemplating stepping off the ledge or stepping into the dark, you are hit with like, but hold on. Yeah. Have you thought through these things? And I'm sure that brings with second guessing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, they're right. But now looking back, you're like, I'm glad I didn't let it hold me back, I'm sure.
And that's it. Anytime you do something and it's novel, there's going to be questions. There's going to be second guesses, third guesses for that matter. But I think that if you stand on your convictions, if you stand on the why, right? Why did I do this? What is my actual purpose? And then when you're tapping into those things, then it reinforces the fact of what you're doing. And so it allows you to continue to go on. But yeah, that was the main question. Are you sure? Not really, but one thing that my father taught me is to live a life without regrets. Yeah. So if I did not do it, then I would have regrets about me not doing it. Right. So really it wasn't an option for me not to do it. Right. So when I put something to my mind, when I say that this is what I'm going to do, I start to calculate. I start to put plans into place, different contingencies. And once it gets rolling, then it's rolling. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a great segue into this question that it kind of is on the same topic of, you are the CEO of both Mississippi Behavior Services and Trinity Behavior Consulting, right? And so when you look at those two, and all the other things you're doing too, because there's probably not enough time to go through all of those.
I'm learning that just in our field, we just are very like entrepreneurial. Like I feel like I've rarely ever met someone that's like, I'm a BCBA, period. Like that's what I do. And that's all that I do. I feel like I just.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't think we can be placed in a box.
No.
Right. No. And so the thing about the science of behavior analysis, it's learning, right? Yeah, and so it's finding more effective ways to learn certain things, essentially, right? And so once you figure out that you're able to learn, then you just continue to build upon those things. Like I conceptualize business, if you will, from a model of behavior analysis. And so when I'm able to do that, then it allows me to go into different territories that I haven't explored before, because I still have the foundation of behavior analysis that goes behind it. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, it's okay. Yeah, so like being the CEO, like back to the question, right? So like being the CEO of both Mississippi Behavior Services and Trinity Behavior Consulting, when you look at the growth that you've had, right, and the experiences that you've had, what is the driving vision behind it, and how ABA services, your services, should evolve?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I think it goes back to the very premise of why we started services. It's about making meaningful changes. And I truly mean that. It's not a tagline, it's not a slogan or anything of that nature. It's about making meaningful changes. And so when I did the internship, like I spoke about earlier, it was in a downtown area, urban area. It wasn't in Mississippi, right? And the individuals that we were providing services to were high to extremely high income individuals. But here we are downtown, right? Our demographics should not just be those individuals. And so I didn't think that it was fair, if you will, that those were the only individuals that could receive meaningful change. Just because you've been blessed or worked extremely hard to have a particular income doesn't mean that you are the only one privy to these services. So when we talk about growth with Mississippi Behavior Services and Trinity, it's about making a meaningful change on a scalable service, right? On a scalable landscape. There's only so much one behavior analyst can do, right? When you have two, it multiplies. When you have more, it continues to grow. And so making sure that when we started these services, that I was the one providing the services. I knew what type of services I wanted to provide. And then training individuals to mimic, if you will, the level and the intensity of services that I provided, and then continue to grow. So now I am effectively making a meaningful change for so many more individuals simply by hiring and training individuals than what I could do alone. So that's the goal. The goal is to make those meaningful changes and truly make those changes for not just the kids, but their families, not just the families, but the individuals that work for us. It's right, right? Yeah.
And that's big too, because like what I'm hearing there is that there's strategy involved. It's taking time. It's not your big box ABA. It's just like pop up shop and like, wait for the contracts to start rolling in.
Yeah. I wish. I'm not privy. I can't do that though, right? Yeah. So there's definitely strategy that goes behind it as well. And I think what's important to really convey is that I don't have all the answers. I've made mistakes along the way, right? So learning from those mistakes, and then not just learning from them, but not replicating them again, right? Because it's easy to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But then when you're in the same contingencies and you make that same mistake again, I mean, it's easy to do that. So you have to learn, if you will, something new to do. And that's one thing that I think that the agencies have done. They've evolved. They've learned, if you will, from the mistakes that we made previously. And so that's what we want to continue to do. I have this notion of 15%, right? I think that you should be 15% better the following year than you were the previous year. And when I say better, I know that's mentalistic and things of that nature, but 15% better as a father, as an owner, as a husband. And how do you gauge those things? You ask, right? You ask the individuals around you, how did I do this year as a dad? You know, talking to the kids. He was all right. You only missed 2 games. You know, last year you missed 3. Great. I did better, right? So just holding yourself accountable. Yeah. Right. And making sure that you're showing up to the places, to the people that you need to show up for. Right.
That's huge. Like, I think the 15% better is something that we could all take and learn from. But even to your point of saying like you can't just do that. Your values are too strong, right? Not just like the financials of whipping up a bunch of agencies and stuff, but you're speaking to your values of that's not what I'd want to do anyway, right? Like, and then learning from those mistakes, which is what you see or hear about not happening, I should say, in big box, right? Like it's like, oh, we should have done that office, but we'll just go over this way, 3 blocks over instead.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like, well, you didn't learn from who you hired here or your hiring processes. You haven't changed anything. So like, that's speaking to the values, which is why there's a different, and why there's this big shift in the narrative now of like, no, people don't really want that big box stuff no more. Like they're not looking to replicate. I mean, nobody's learned from those environmental variables that have happened that failed, right? Or like nobody's looking at the reinforcement that didn't come from the owners who bought out card, right? And then like went bankrupt like 4 years later.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
I mean, in my opinion, that sucks. That owner got a steal because they were able to buy it back for like something. I was like, wow,
strategic.
That was strategic. You sell something for so much,
right?
Then you watch it be destroyed. But that's also got to be so hard to watch something that you work so hard to do just be destroyed by somebody else.
Absolutely. And you talk about big box, right? And so taking that same example, she didn't start that way, right? She started out small. And I'm sure that she went in with all the best intentions ever, right? And then dollars begin to dangle over your head, and it's hard, right? Yeah. It's hard to say, no, we're not going to do that, and still keep the same level of integrity. Yeah. And that's the piece that I think is sometimes missing with big box. It's not that I think they're setting out to do a bad job.
No.
I think that their priorities may not be in the best benefit of the individuals that they're providing the services for, right? And we all say, it's about the numbers, but you still have behavior analysts that want to do a good job, right? You have RBTs that show up every day to make sure that their clients are getting what they need. And so I think that by changing the contingencies of those things, that's when we will see a different quality come from the corporate box, if you will. It's the same notion, of back in the day. There were more family-owned, like pediatric centers, doctors, right? And then what happened? These companies began to buy these the doctors out. They couldn't compete. It's replicating within what we're doing now. And so what happened is you no longer have mom and pops that were doctors that own these. Now it's this big box that comes in, but it's almost like a reversal. Now you're beginning to see, doctors go out, branch on their own. And that's what I think you're seeing within our community as well, to speak about, BCBAs being entrepreneurs. That's what we're seeing now. That's the manifestation of what has happened over the course of time. A lot of them have worked in those corporate agencies like this is not it. And when we talk about burnout and things of that nature, it's because they're pushing those numbers so hard, right? You got to give me 35 billable hours. You have to do this. You have to do that. By doing that, sometimes I think that we lose the essence of what it is that we do. Are billable hours required? Absolutely. Got to pay the bills. You'd like to get paid, right? However, I think that there's a fine mix that you can have where not only is your BCBA successful, but they're also more effective now as well, right? The caseload is smaller. They're able to actually analyze the data that the RBTs are taking, not just simply taking it. Exactly.
You're like, wait, what are we doing again?
Yes. And who are you?
I think, to several of the points that you made, one of the things that Melina hears me say, and I feel like I say quite often, is almost everything is done with the right intention. The execution is wrong. It's right intention, wrong execution. And so, like, even if we take card, for example, the best intentions are like, I can serve more people, I can help more, right? Execution was, not as good, right? Like you didn't take the core to every place. Things kind of fall apart, right? And so even now, like, as you're talking about, we're shifting back into like mom and pops and people starting those things. It's almost as if, the fear that we had of like social media and everyone being connected is gone, but it's actually heightened the connectivity that we've wanted. A community that is being built. Absolutely. Because we can, far reach, but 10 years ago, we're like, I don't know if I want my info out like that. We're all like this. But now, like, we're reaping the side effects of like, actually following through with and pushing through the fears that we had of
Absolutely.
that. And that's what's leading to more places that are like, no, we can grow and sustain this quality, but our core principles and values need to be strong and instilled everywhere that we go.
That's it. And the thing is, you have to put procedures in place in order to measure that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one thing for you to say, I want to make meaningful changes. And then I start an agency in Arizona and I'm not even there.
Yeah.
Right. And so how can that be? I'm saying one thing, but my actions show something differently. So I think what we lacked in the field for a long time was accountability.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So being able to say, you know what, I made a mistake here, but now I recognize that and I'm going to fix that.
Yeah.
We have this issue with being wrong publicly, right? When we're wrong, we want to hide it instead of actually saying, this is what I did wrong. Let me fix this situation. And I don't know if that is a backlash of social media or what, or if it's just our own intrinsic selves that don't want to be wrong. But once you reach a level to where you're able to hold yourself accountable and then actually go and do something about it, that's when I think that actual growth occurs. That's when I think that you begin to align with what it is that you set out to do. When your words and your actions both align, that's when you're going to see the growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're talking about, pouring in, taking those values, right? Like you've built agencies that reflect the communities that you serve, right? With some numbers that I would love for you to share, right? Because I know we've talked about this off camera. And so like you're prioritizing the professionalism and how you're diving into that, right? So how do you see representation and mentorship working together to strengthen ABA as a whole?
Yeah, it's hand in hand, right? So when I was going through the process, my mentor, my supervision, I didn't have anyone that looked like me, right? And when it was extremely glaring is while I was providing services for a 9-year-old child that did look like me, the supervisor had no idea of idiosyncratic, just cultural competencies that went along with it. And so when I was able to pull out certain things from mom, from the child, my supervisor would say, how did you do that? Well, aren't you supposed to be providing me with supervision? So I think that I know we wanted to create something that replicated what the community looked like, right? So we are very intentional about what it is that we do. We are very intentional about our hiring procedures and process because we want it to be reflective of the individuals that we serve. So 98% of the individuals that are employed by us look like me, right? 98% of the clientele that we provide services to also look like us. And so I think that that's important because there's certain aspects of the Black experience, if you will, that is just part of who you are. Now, I'm not saying that that means that you understand everything that there is to be about being Black, but you don't have to face that, oh, you don't look like me when you knock on the door, right? And when it comes to mentorship, supervision, the individuals that I provide my supervision with, we are very applicable, right? I believe in application. Yes, you need to understand foundational principles of behavior analysis, but you also need to have a working understanding of the application of behavior analysis. And so there's scenarios, there's things that we're doing within this supervision aspect that I feel are extremely important because that's what you're going to be doing when you're actually working with these individuals, right? And so that's one aspect. And then when it comes to mentorship, I don't consider myself to be a mentor. I tell my story, right? I keep it real, if you will. And I say that these are the things that work for me. These are the things that didn't work for me. Have you thought about this, right? And it's more so having the mentee, if you will, to come to their own conclusions, right? I don't want to be responsible for saying this is what you should do. You should come across that yourself, right?
That's too so valuable for them, because we are like supposed to critically think. We're supposed to apply the principles, but also not everything is a black and white answer.
It's not,
you know, and so there is a lot that you have to figure out on a daily on the
absolutely,
job.
Absolutely.
So I think that's great that you're kind of like, I can give you the information that like from my own experience, but then it's also giving them that kind of that time to really problem solve and figure out those little hiccups and those bumps. And yeah, I think that's great, because I feel like there's been times where I've felt like, oh my goodness, like, are we doing a good job teaching them to not be reliant on us all the time?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a tricky balance. So I love that.
Yeah. And even when we have meetings, if you would, with my BCBAs and RBTs as well, it's if you're bringing issues to the table, if there's concerns, right, I want you to also have a solution, right? So that way, when we're having a dialogue, because that's what it is. I don't want this to be, you ask me a question and then I go on this monologue. No, we have to have a dialogue, right? So when Johnny's not touching his nose, when you ask him, you use these reinforcers, what do you think we should do, right? And so now they're part of this entire experience. And that's what we talk about when it's applications. And that's not just BCBAs, but that's the RBTs as well. That's the parents. That's everyone. I don't want individuals listening to me because I don't think that I'm very smart, right? I think that we can come up with solutions as a team. Yes. That's my philosophy personally, and also from a professional standpoint. There's not one person in the room that has all the answers. And so when we begin to collaborate, how much more powerful is that collaboration than me just giving you something or you just telling me this? So absolutely, when you collaborate, when you bring in those experiences, when you talk about application, when you talk about research, when you put all of those things together, that's when you get the best experience.
And everyone brings something different to the team.
Absolutely,
awesome
absolutely.
You know, that's always sweet too, is when you see staff kind of like have those aha moments like that. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, you can literally see it. You got it.
You're right. It's such a big deal too, because that fosters a environment, right, or an agency culture that is centered on being connected and making decisions together, right, and in the best interest of the individual. Absolutely. And of course, we're not talking about like RBTs writing behavior plans, but but their input is valid and very important.
Absolutely,
we can't be there all the time. Right.
You know, you say RBTs writing plans. Now, I haven't submitted them for insurance, or we not necessarily implement, but I do have a workshop in which my RBTs write plans.
That's valuable, though.
Right?
That's valuable.
Absolutely. So allow them to write a plan. And so then you can give input. Well, I do like this. Let me tie this into, research. Let me tie this into why this will or may not work. Right. And so now they have some accountability as well. So now they're getting an understanding. How many times have you done supervision and they've just sat there waiting on you to give instructions? Right. But if, again, they're collaborative, if they have ownership of this plan as well, I did that piece over there. You absolutely did. You're right. You did do it. And it was great. So having them to come in and write those plans. So every Friday afternoon, we work from Monday to Friday, but we have a half day on Fridays to where those workshops are on the Fridays afternoons.
And that's what we do.
That does make me happy.
That makes me so happy to hear. That's really cool. And I think too, I think it's fun, like sometimes too, as staff kind of like really understand, like even like DTT, scaffolding, like how do we, yes, that's the end goal, but right now we're here. What do you think would be next?
Exactly.
That's so fun.
Exactly. It is. Yeah. And just like you said, it's bringing a learning culture to the environment where if someone was to walk in, you would not be able to distinguish between my RBT and my BCBA, right? I want you to come in and say, okay, everyone is actively learning. Everyone is actively participating. So yeah, that's the goal.
Setting the bar high. I love that.
Yeah, it's like raising the bar and raising the standard for the entire field to do things like that, right? They're like, half day on Friday. I mean, who's going to pay the bills?
Right.
But I would assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that your turnover isn't as high for doing things like that.
It fluctuates, and I'm just going to be honest with you, right? And so it appears to be various seasons, and so I've had one season, if you will, in which I had about 12 RBTs in about span of about 8 months. About all of them left, right? And so I had to replace every one of them, and so that's when you begin to look at things that you're doing as an agency, though, right? That's when you're looking at your administration and saying, what type of feedback are you guys giving? That's when you begin your surveys and things of that nature to your RBTs. That mean I have a perception of what my culture is. Yeah. When I'm walking through the clinic, I see that perception because that's what I want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. However, that may not be the reality of it. And so the data, if you will, shows you that. And so here, the last 2 years, I think we've had maybe 3 to 4, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but maybe 3 or 4 RBTs to turn over the last 2 years. But prior to that, it was a revolving door.
Yeah.
But we had to put various things in place. And again, having accountability as an owner, my agency is the best agency there is, right? That's what I'm thinking. However, the data, RBT turnover, tells me something differently. And so I need to make sure that I'm sensitive enough to actually address those, that issue.
But that sounds like a good boss. And that
doesn't sound like a boss. That sounds like a leader.
But also, yes. You know what I mean? Like both. Yes. Like I love that you're like humble enough to do that, to be like, wait, maybe it's something that I can change, instead of just, because I mean, you always see on like the Facebook pages and all that stuff, and it's just like completely talking mess on all the staff. And don't get me wrong, there are some not quality staff members, you know, that don't see it as a long-term job, but also that there is very minimal accountability on the end of the owners.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. You have to be accountable for what it is that you do. If you're putting this product, if you will, out there, then you have to take ownership.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, I own this ABA agency. It's another thing to actually work it, though. It's another thing to actually care about what it is that you're doing. Is financials important? Absolutely. That's how I feed my family. But the services that we also provide for the individuals, is that important as well? Absolutely. Right? Like it goes back to the why. Why did we start these things? Yeah.
Absolutely. I have one more question for you. Looking ahead, what's the big picture for you? Not just for your companies, for the field of ABA and the communities that you are committed to.
Good question. So at some point, I do intend to retire. Right? At some point, there will be.
They all say. I'm just kidding.
There will be an exit strategy. But in terms of the effect for my community, I want to have a lasting effect. One in which, you know, parents and the individuals we serve can say that what we did was actually meaningful, right? We started various programs, contracts, if you will, with Head Starts, right? Yeah. And so we put these trainings into place to where we've trained parents to be able to provide not services, but to handle, if you will, certain aspects of the behaviors that they're seeing out of their kids. So being able to, that's impactful for me, right? Saying that we've started various things within different agencies. So the Head Start in school programs, not only are we providing the direct services for the kids, but we're also providing parent training components, right? And so this is something that they look forward to on a regular basis. And so when clinics close, when contracts are depleted, if you will, the notion that I've effectively been able to touch parents in that aspect is something that really resonates with me, though, right? And something that I can see myself continually doing, putting on various training for parents and things of that nature.
Even into retirement?
Virtually. Awesome. No. Yeah, I mean, No, it's a really good question. The one that, like, my mindset is always about work. My mindset is go. And so I say an exit strategy. I don't know what that looks like yet. Yeah. That was really one of the reasons looking into Arizona, right? I want to retire out that way. But then I bought the clinic.
Closer,
right.
You know, to California. You can come
that would be nice.
Us, you know?
Absolutely. So yeah, that can be in the plans. But yeah, so eventually one day I will stop. But I don't intend to stop the impact of our community, right? Yeah. And then even the notion of the individuals that I've hired, them going out, starting their own agencies, right? So it's almost like little branches of Mississippi Behavior Services and Trinity starting or being effective in other places as well. So yeah. I think just the lineage alone is really.
No, absolutely. Like your impact on the small circle that you started with, right? That's now much larger, right? And now, because if you're just to your point of like, we are the science of human behavior, right? We are entrepreneurs to some degree, right? Because every day we're doing something different. Yeah. We're pushing. We're trying. Like we're not afraid of failing to the degree that other like fields might be, because we fail all the time with what. Like interventions, like that really didn't work. So like like that, that chip on the shoulder, like I can't fail, like falls off really early because we fail quite often with interventions and stuff that we create. So that fear doesn't govern, all of us. Yeah, I mean, it's a new level, a different type of fear, like stepping off the ledge. But if we've been at an agency and been providing services and failed an intervention strategy, or something didn't work, or our kiddo got hurt because the self-injurious behavior that they did in the reactive strategy that we had in place wasn't executed right. Like at the end of the day, it's still us, right? It's still our fault. And so, that leads us into that. So like, it's not surprising that like the helping hand that you've done, or training that you've done with so many of your BTs, RBTs, behavior analysts, have then gone out to start something for themselves. Yeah. And now you got mini versions of you and what you built. And one day when you do retire, you can like send an email blast out, and we can, you can probably fill an arena with the hands that you've like helped, because the lineage of Vargas Clark supported everyone. So
that would be cool. But no, honestly, I mean, but again, it goes back to the why. It's about making those meaningful changes, right? And so again, like I said, it's not just the clients, not just the parents, but everyone that you have contact with. It's about making that meaningful change. So
absolutely.
And trying to stop the, maybe it's just culture as the statement. And I'm sure you've heard it. Yeah. It's like, and I was like, well, do you know what that actually means? Right. Like I've had BCBAs or, other people that I would call mentors because, there's very few like that I've found like super high quality focused on kid type BCBAs in the area that I've been, like places that I've worked. Right. Yeah. And so like, even hearing them that don't fit with the culture and California is pretty diverse, right? And so there was like, well, maybe culture plays a part, but it stops there. There's no investigation of well, okay, what does that truly mean? Right. Like we sit there and ask 5 whys as to why our behavior is occurring, but we ask this simple question to ourselves and we stop. Yeah. Right? Like, why? Yeah. I'm like, no, I want to know. Yeah. That like there's a difference between a black culture, a white culture, Asian culture, Middle Eastern, wherever they are, like family dynamics, religion plays a part. Like there's so many things. Like we might think that this behavior is so important that we need to work on it now, but they're like, no, this is part of our culture. Like we have to allow this to happen. Absolutely. And that is more important than
that trumps what a BCBA prefers.
Exactly. Yes, preferred. I like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's critical, but I think that when you look at response effort as well, right? So if I ask this question and I already assume that I know the answer, it's culture, I'm going to stop because it will require more effort, right, for me to move forward. But I've already made up in my mind that there's no need for me to have any more effort, right? Because I know the answer already. So I think that when we stop learning in general, right, that's when we tend to get complacent.
I was
Right.
like become dangerous, like to
Absolutely.
the field, to the children that we're helping, to the adults that we're helping, to the families,
Yes.
to our staff.
And so for me, it's synonymous. Being complacent is being dangerous because you are no longer pushing that envelope. You're no longer saying that there's more out there.
Absolutely.
You're saying that I know it all and there's nothing that you can tell me anymore. So I'm going to run these same old programs.
And it's
There's
a
gonna be-
science, it's evolving.
Exactly.
always.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that we don't render ourselves to that. We say that we know it. This has worked in the past. So we're reinforced by it. Right. And so why would I go and do something that's novel? Why would I do something new when I already know what's going to work or what's not going to work? Yeah.
Yep. And as a science and a scientist, essentially, right, we are oblivious to those biases that we then create.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Right? At times, if we're not challenging ourselves to be like getting to the bottom of it, right, and just leaving it as what it is that we see, like, oh yeah, like, you know, this principle can cover for this, right? It's like, does it fully though? Like, where's our parsimony? Like, let's get to it.
Absolutely.
Right, let's rule out some of this stuff. It's like, this started from something. This is here because of some reason.
Absolutely.
And if we are smart enough to ask us that question, we shouldn't be dumb enough to end on it.
That's it. And that's what happens. Like when I meet with my when I have my case conceptualization with the clinic, we're asking those questions, right? And so they're saying that, well, this is the function of the behavior. So, well, how do you know that, right? And so, well, because I ran this FA, but still, why? Right? Like, explain it to me. Give me more.
And everything, but...
Exactly.
You're touching the points that the insurance needs.
Exactly. But give me more, you know? And so when we stop asking those questions about give me more, and we simply look at this as a black and white issue, right? Literally, then that's when everything just stops for us. And that's when we have cookie cutter programs, right? That's when we have the rigidity in what it is that we're doing as a BCBA and the RBT, because we're not willing to continue to ask those questions that are so pertinent.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Well, we took up so much of your time. But we appreciate you so much.
Absolutely.
And all that you do and all that you give back. So thank you for coming today. Excited to, I'm gonna start being in the background of the video. It's like when you guys are talking, so I can, you know, I don't want to interrupt, but I just need to hear some of the stuff that y'all be talking about because it sounds amazing. So anyways, thank you so much for taking
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. I know we're here, you know, for the summit. And
it's going to be amazing.
There's so many great, intelligent, doing great work individuals here. And, you know, taking time to jump on a podcast with us is crazy. And like, I love it. Like just being able to be here and then do this for the first time, being in person together.
Yes.
This is amazing. So thank you again. And
thank you guys.
Thanks guys for watching.
Hanging out, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye for now.